Hello, Suzan. Welcome to the Revolutionary Rompereglas podcast.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. So I'm going to introduce you.
I move around a lot, so bear with me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Suzan Henriquez is a Latina spiritual teacher and bruja healer from the Bronx, New York, storyteller, warrior, goddess, writer, and the creative force of nature behind the Talk to Ma podcast, which is a loving, trauma informed, safe space for young adults ages 18 to 35 to help people in this age bracket realize their authentic selves and connect with their emotions, answer their questions, and help manifest their dreams. Oh, and she's also a crisis and trauma counselor with over 20 years of experience in mental health and trauma healing.
Yes, I'm all those things. Yes. I wanted to hear you say it to me.
What does it feel like to hear it?
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here, Isha.
So maybe you can share how it is that we got to know each other,
Yeah.
because this is a whole behind the scenes type of podcast.
Yeah. So, Isha, you and I, we met at BD 101, right? I just interviewed someone else from BD 101. Beyond Diversity 101, a workshop that we did together on diversity. And I don't know, did we meet the first time I went? I think we met the first time and the second time.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So for me, going to this is I gotta say it out. Like I went into this BD 101 thinking it was gonna be a traditional diversity workshop. I was gonna go away for a couple of days and just get away. And we're gonna sing Kumbaya, and us and the white folks are gonna be great afterwards. What I had experienced. And I seen you. I didn't know that you were Latina yet. And you were doing all this like deep breathing and all this extra. I was like, she's mad extra. Like, ¿qué le pasa a esta?
Was I breathing at that workshop?
No, but I know like the second, I think you were, because you were doing this deep breathing, the shit that you teach me now. And I'm trying to teach everybody. But when I first saw you, I thought you were so damn strange. And it was just all my shit that I brought with me to BD 101. And then we did a second workshop together, and you were the co-facilitator. Now, no. I came to you first for therapy, right? Before the second
No,
one?
I don't think you were in therapy yet. No, right afterwards, right afterwards.
Okay, yeah. So you did that, but I liked you. I just thought you were strange. I thought everybody there was strange. I was the only one that wasn't strange. But I also knew something happened to me there. It's not let me with all the things. Like it was like something cracked. Like it was different because spirituality was in it. A lot of self-love, non-judgmental environment that I had never experienced before, ever. In church, none of that. And that was like, it was like a moment, just a like, what's this about? Like, what is this? Then I went the second time, and you were the co-facilitator. And that second time was like really something like broke. Something broke. Like I was already going through stuff, but something broke in me in that one because I just wasn't the same again. And I got to bring this up too. There was a moment when we were doing, and it was a lot of it was spiritual for me because that was, I was a Christian. I went to church every Sunday. I never let my kids cuss. They couldn't listen to music that cuss. I was like, get your ass up. We're going to church. Well, I didn't say ass because I didn't even curse. Get yourselves up and we're going to church. And I don't take anything from the church because it gave me my foundation. It also stirred up the energy in me or spirit to let me know that there was something greater in this world than me. So I don't take anything. I think I just outgrew it. Like I feel like it just couldn't teach me anything else.
So you came as a Christian to my office.
Yes. And so I was looking for a therapist and I found you and I recognized, you had your picture and I was like, oh, I know her. Like, I know her. I trust her. I think I could do this with her. I wonder if she would take me. And that's when I called you and that's when we started doing our work together. Yeah. And I'm forever grateful.
Yeah. So I want you, for the listeners, to just to talk a little bit about how you came in. Like, what was your state of being? Where were you in your life when we started our journey together?
So when I came to you, I had I was just, and the best way I could say is how I felt was just broken. I was just broken. I was just barely making it through the day. Like every day, once the day was over, I was like, I made it. That was it. It was like, okay, I did it. I made it through this day.
Right.
And the real thing for me was when I thought about killing myself. That's when I knew that I had never had that feeling before. And that was really scary for me. And I just knew something had to give. Knew I was fucked up in my head. Something was going on. And I came to you hoping that I could get some help.
Amazing, because I remember that first session like it was yesterday. Like I could feel all of what you were holding in your body. It was like a dam was about to break, which is what, why people feel broken is because there's like the walls are starting to crack inside to the dam that they're holding. But I also remember you talking about that you felt called by spirit to do something bigger. And I was just so excited by that because I could feel it in you also. This like you had a vision for yourself and you're like, I need to get from where I am now to fulfilling that vision. And I don't know how to get there. Let's do this. Right. And we're like, okay, let's do this.
Absolutely. All my life, Isha, I always knew I wanted to do something great, and I don't mean like being successful about money. And I'm not saying that money is not good and I don't want it, because I do. But I knew that there was something that I had to give to the world. Yeah. And all that time I was in the church, it was always like, somebody else, looking for somebody else to tell you what your gift is. Like with I see so many people like, what's my gift? Like just wondering all the time what their gifts is, waiting for some kind of answer and just never doing anything. And I didn't want that for me. I didn't want to leave this world without using my gifts. That's even in the Bible. Like I didn't want to leave this world without using my gifts. And that was, and then, the spiritual side of me is so important to me. And that was the thing for me, because you let me just discover things for myself. There was never any judgment. And there was a lot of fear because of what Christianity was telling me. What Christianity was telling me for 11 years that I stayed in an abusive marriage, Mm-hmm. Christianity was telling me that, I couldn't do anything until God moved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sitting here waiting for him to move him.
Right. Yeah. And so I want you, for the listeners, to describe your process, because, we worked with your body.
Oh, yeah.
We worked with spirituality. We worked with energy. We worked with your body. And so I want you to describe, and this is the first time I'm going to be hearing this too, like your internal process, like you're sort of coming into the body now that you are like on the other side of that really intense part of the journey. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First I got to say this to anybody that listening, like, if you decide to do this, it's going to hurt. I had some of the most painful experience. I remember leaving your office and like barely, it might look like to you I was walking out, but I was barely holding myself up. Like really, I was really barely holding myself up. And doing one of the things that you did with me that I'll never, ever forget was you told me to act like I was a little person and to look inside myself and see what I see. And I remember that when I looked, it was like I didn't see anything because I had to go. Like, I don't have time to see. What do you mean see? To me, that was like, ain't no time to see. I got shit to do. What is she talking about seeing? You know? And so the little person in me was just couldn't relate to that. Like, there was, I couldn't, and although I didn't, and then at that time it was like an aha moment for me, because I was like, shit, that's how I've been going through my life. I haven't even taken a moment to smell the roses. I had this incredible opportunity to do a graduate program, and I just didn't even enjoy it. The first of my generation, and all I did was zoom by it. I didn't even go to my graduation. I didn't even honor it. You know, I'm supposed to be dead in a ditch.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm really supposed, if I look at my life, I'm supposed to be dead.
There was a lot to sort of pull out and sort of look at. And in the process, like you talked about, like it was painful. And I remember there was a lot like washing up, wanting to be released. And we would also really celebrate the releases. Do you remember?
Yeah, but I learned so much from you, and I learned, like, I'm getting back because I really didn't answer. I wanna say this because it's so important. Like, I had pains in my body because I was holding things in my legs, things in my stomach, and I still do it, but not as much. And today I'm aware of it. Like, when I do it, if I start to shake my legs and tense them up, I'm like, put your feet down flat on the floor. I'm aware of fear. I'm aware of all these things. And I'm not saying it's easy. I have bad days, but you taught me how to be aware of these things that are these feelings that affect my body. So I just wanted to add that because it's so important, I think, now. I never thought it was, but it's so important now for your physical health.
Yeah. And so
you asked me something before that. What was the question before? Before it?
Yeah, we were talking like I was wanting to address, like you talked about it being a painful process, but we also celebrated those releases with pleasure. Like it was like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's just talk about Rompereglas. I'm part of that group, and I mean that has been such a journey. So, we want to talk about having a support system that I can do things like dance, like swamping or alchemy, right? That's like I've always loved to dance, but I'm so sorry. I'm such a mover, and I'm excited. I'm happy too, because I was telling Fear, like, you're gonna be with Isha. You're gonna be all right. This is safe territory. Anyway, yeah. What was I saying? Dang, I'm so sorry.
about pleasure.
Yeah, and I've learned so much about just that it's okay to have pleasure in my life, and it's okay to celebrate good stuff, because and I still struggle with this. So I want people to really realize that even with my podcast, this is a journey I'm going through, and I'm taking people along with me. I post a lot of things, I say a lot of shit, but that's for me too. And then when people like, yeah, that's fire, that's right, or they share it, or then that makes me feel like I'm doing God's work,
Right. Yes.
Even with all the cussing and all that, I'm doing God's work because somebody needs to hear this.
Yes.
That somebody, and I'm learned through you that it's not only important that you take time for pleasure for yourself, but it's necessary. Mm-hmm. It's so necessary. And I try to, and in my podcast too, I try to show all the emotions.
Yes.
Like, there's days I feel sexy and flat and beautiful, and I want to show it. And then some days I feel, not ugly, because I don't ever want to feel ugly, but I don't feel the need to be pretty. Let's just say that. Like, I don't need you to see me pretty. Like, this is how I feel. I want to be in my ugly nightgown and eat cheesecake and watch bad TV. And that is so okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm remembering a point, just sort of like walking listeners through your journey. And I'm remembering a particular critical point that where I remember I felt like as your therapist, as your coach, I felt like, ooh, like we're on a precipice, like something's happening here, right? There was like a little bit of a dip, a low point. You remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the breakup of my marriage was really, bad. It was really, really bad for a lot of different reasons that we don't have time for.
Another episode.
Right. But there was a lot of guilt in that breakup. There was a lot of pain. It was sort of unexpected, the breakup, because it just came to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, it was just so draining to my life. And I felt like it was a big barrier to where God wanted to take me. And and then I'm an alcoholic. So I also had a relapse. And so that was another thing that I never wanted to go through again. But the pain of the breakup was, I can't even explain to anyone how bad that was for me, and still is. It's not like I'm totally over it, but definitely at a different place.
Yes, yes.
Right. And so those two things, I always knew that I wanted to do this something, like I told you. And I have been listening to podcasts, and you and I had talked about it. And I've been asked, I also asked other people for help that did, and it didn't pan out, it didn't go through or whatever. People said that they were going to help, that did help. And
Before you go there, Suzan, when you were in that dark moment, right? Or when you were in that dip where you had relapsed, where you were healing some really deep intimacy wounds, right? You were healing some deep attachment wounds. What helped you? Like, what supported you in?
codependency.
Right, exactly. All that stuff. What helped you find the strength to go on?
You know,
Dig from. Where
yeah,
did you?
I can't give one thing. I can't give one thing credit. I really can't. Um, because it was several different things that I did. For me, I know a lot of people, for me, COVID was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I don't think I could have lived that busy life. For me, the whole year of it was a big transformation for me. And I don't think I could have done it had it not been for COVID, because I didn't have to go to work every day, drive to work, do this, do that, do that. It gave me a moment to be still. And in that time, I spent a lot of time with God. God revealed a lot of things to me. I realized that, this world is not just masculine. And for me, that was really, really, woof, like it gave me power to know that I am a divine being. Because even in the Christianity, like you telling me I am of God, I am, I am him, but I don't have the power he has. That's
Right.
like you telling your children, they're your children, but they don't have any of your inheritance. They don't look like you. They don't have anything of you. It doesn't make sense. Logically, doesn't make sense. And I learned a lot about nature. Like, I mean, I have like this whole, like that whole spiritual side. I got to give that the most important. Like I learned, I do altars, I do card readings now. I do all this thing that I thought like I would go to hell for.
And that was the point, Susan. Like that was the point where pussy and spirit came together, and you were like, kapow.
Right. Like I could talk to the trees and not really think they hear me. Nobody could tell me they don't. They hear me. They answer my prayers. They send my prayers up to the Creator. She loves me. I definitely still believe in Jesus. For me, that's a big thing too. I definitely believe Jesus died on the cross for me. So that's power right there.
Yeah.
Like if you're a Christian, you believe that Jesus died on the cross, then you can do everything Jesus did. Bring
Right.
people from the dead and all of that. That's what I'm saying. But it's up to us how far we're going to go, right? How far we're going to dig in deep. And that's what I did. That was my first thing. Like, God, like, I need you to reveal stuff to me that I never knew before. Like, this is just crazy. Like, I knew I had something to bust open in me.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I love so much about your process was that you were going for it. Like you were bold, like you were feeling all the feelings, you were praying all the prayers. You wouldn't stop. Like you were so determined because of that call, that vision you'd had, right? You were just like, I need to get there and I will do anything to get there because it was continuing to call you.
And you know what? The suicide thing was a big thing too, because like I knew that I was fucked up. Like, yo, I want to take my life. Like, I'm sitting there looking at them bottle of pills, and it took everything in my strength to not take them pills. I called my poor son, I called him, I called my brothers. They talked me down too. I gotta say, they talked me down too, but it took everything in me to call somebody.
Right.
So and then I gotta say, then the Rompereglas, I was still doing therapy with you, so that was a big thing. I was in the Rompereglas, and that community helped me so much because I feel like I could really bring all my shit there. Like you might think I put a lot of things on Facebook, but y'all ain't see what I put out on Rompereglas. Because I really feel like I could just put anything as long as I don't disrespect anybody, anything like that. Like I could really put like all my ugly, all my sexy, all my everything. So that community is wonderful too. And then you do coaching, which really, like, our last coaching meeting was so awesome. I love that you have the Latinx, so I can be with my people. Sometimes I just want to be with my people, especially seeing my people doing such awesome shit. I'm like, yeah, so I love that. Like, I love that. So yeah, and I go to ACOA, which is for adult children of alcoholic, because I have that in my, experience with my dad and substance abuse in my family. And so every kind of abuse. But stay tuned to talk to Ma. Revealed. So I did all of that. I did anything that I thought was going to help me. I went back to AA, anything that I thought that was going to help me and support me. And I still do that. I haven't stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. You have like really excellent maintenance practices, right? You really stay dedicated to the things that support you so that when, as you expand and wherever you're going, when you expand, you're going to meet fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about that a lot. And so you really are able to hold yourself because you've got those supports and stop gaps in place to catch you. So that's
not just that, if I could add to that. Also because those old ways try to come back.
Yeah, the patterns.
Right? You're doing good. You think you the bomb, then all that something be like, and you're like,
ooh, there you are again.
Oh, that's right. I can't do this shit. I ain't shit. Oh, that's right. My mother told me I would never amount to anything. You start leaning like this again. So you need those things to like, girl, fix your crown. You got this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And so in this process, right, like as we're doing all of this trauma healing and all of this like unearthing the codependency stuff, alcoholism, all that stuff, the whole vision was still part of the process, right? We would like have a couple of sessions that were just about like expressive work, just like getting stuff out, release work. And then we would come back to the vision. Oh, what does it look like? Or maybe I should buy a house and have this going on, right? Like it had different iterations, but that was always on the radar as the goal, right? Yeah.
And I gotta add that too. You were like and still are like my biggest cheerleader too. Like I wasn't always sad coming out of your office. I was like, sometimes I come out of there like, yeah, I can do it. Because I come with this idea. You'd be like, yeah, girl, you can do it. And so, that helped me too, to feel like I could do this shit. I don't think I ever had a therapist do that either. You're not my first. But I don't think I ever had a cheerleader and a therapist, where I felt like I could do anything.
I was actually a cheerleader in high school. I'm trained. No, and so I want to let listeners know too that from your first session, right, which was you started in, I remember it was in October, and then we ended in November of 2020.
And in my life, let's add that. Still is. I have not found a replacement yet, y'all. So you know.
But in that year, all of that transformation happened. Like from that time that you came in feeling but not being broken to starting your podcast was 1 year. What a difference a year makes. Yeah. So I want to invite you to talk about the podcast.
So, yeah, I had been listening to podcasts before podcasts became this thing, right? Before COVID. Now everybody, there is a lot of podcasts, a lot more podcasts than when you and I first talked about it. I mean, like it must have quadrupled since then. Because when I first started talking about it, people didn't even know what it was.
Right.
A podcast, what is that?
Yeah.
But I had started, and I think you got me listening to podcasts, actually. Because you were telling me about, there's these podcasts. You ever listen to podcasts? And I started listening to them. And I was like, this is cool. I like, and I found some people that I liked. And then you and I talked about it again. And you were like, it doesn't really take a lot to do it. Like people are doing it out of their closets, you were like, that's actually the best place to do it. And I was like, oh, wow. So I started doing the research and, it was in the back of my head. And it's just the thing about it too, like certain people that I would tell, they would be like, or I've even had people laugh at me, like, oh, you're so crazy. You want to do a podcast? You're so crazy. And so I started doing the research and I had bought the mics. I had the mics and I reached out for help and wasn't getting much of that. And so I was like, damn, I can't do this shit. I don't know anything about podcasts really, except what I learned on YouTube. But once again, like the other thing, let me just say this too. The other piece to this was I was very unhappy in my current position. I felt like I really wasn't doing what I had my degree. I was definitely not doing any of that kind of work. And I was really saddened when I tried to find other work, because it's just the same thing, like the same systems. I'm just going to a different facility. In fact, they all work together. Like they're under the umbrella of this thing I don't want to be a part of. And I think I said this in my podcast. But I've been in the mental health field for a long time, and I did not really see people getting healed. People are not getting healed. They're not getting healed. They're given medicine, and they're told to go on their merry way. They're not, we're not really digging deep, we're not digging deep. We're not empowering people, is what I'm saying. Like, we're giving you the, even like when I worked at the homeless shelter, yeah, we gave them housing, but we gave them nothing else.
Yeah.
A lot of them died in their housing. A lot of them relapse in their housing. A lot of them lose the housing and end up back out in the streets doing the same shit again, because they don't know how to live.
Right. The source of the problem wasn't being addressed. Yeah.
Right. And I didn't want to, and that brings me great anxiety. Like, it's like, I don't even know how to be in that. And since I know what I know, from what I know of this year, I know that shit don't work, because I've been through it all. I've been a victim of domestic violence. I've been a substance abuse victim. Okay. I've been homeless. I've been a domestic violence victim. There's like no fucking victim I'm not of. And I know that all that shit don't work. Not only from being a person that facilitated these healing practices, but also because I've been through them.
Yeah.
And I want to create something different. So one day I just said, fuck it, we're going to do it. Fuck it. I don't know. People would ask me all these questions. Well, what about the editing? Have you done this? But what about that? But have you considered this? I had one friend that was like, she's like this super, really like detailed oriented anal person, which is great. But she was like asking me all these questions, like, have you thought about this? And have you done? I didn't even have a logo. Okay, logo. Oh, what's that? When I tell you, I went in with 2 mics, a computer, and I just redecorated my room to make it look more studio-ishy. And I just said, you know what? I don't have, and she was like, I gotta say, she was telling me all these details. Like, no. And I was like, look, if I wanted somebody to question everything that I do, I would fucking stay at my job. I'm still there, but I'm just saying, like, like, why the fuck what? The fuck? She was pissing me off.
I've always loved that about you. Like, there's this like boldness about you and just like rawness that I think makes the podcast so unique, because like, you're just like, pal carajo, we're doing this. Fuck it, And that's the energy with which you started it. And it's infused, like everything you do is infused with that. And I think it's so part of your essence, right? Like there's a lot of freedom in that.
Well, you know what, issue? Because I wasn't always like that, right? I wasn't. I really was not always like this. Like, I thought my whole life was about sacrifice, because nobody sacrificed for me growing up. So I thought that in order for me to be a good mom, a good wife, a good sister, a good daughter, I had to always be in sacrifice mode. Like, there's no saying no, there's no boundaries. Even if you treat me bad, it's okay, porque tú eres familia, I'll forgive you. You're my husband, I gotta stick with you no matter what. Like, that's how I lived my life. And meanwhile, people around me just fucking did whatever the fuck they wanted to do and treated me any kind of way they wanted to do. And it was like, I'm at the point, I mean, I'm getting a little calmer now. I don't know if you noticed that it's calmed down a little bit, but I was mad. I had to be mad to do this shit. Like, I really had to be mad. I had to be mad at everybody. Fuck all y'all motherfuckers. That's how I felt. Right. And I want to tell people that it's okay to feel that shit. Just stay there.
You took that anger and you put it to creative use. That's beautiful. Like, what better way is there to to use anger?
And I know that there's people out there angry too, right? And I think that's really the first step. First, you got to be like, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong. Like, that's the first step. Or, I'm not liking who I am right now. And that was the other thing. I didn't like who I was. That's why mirror work, when you show me mirror work, girl, I didn't look in the mirror. I couldn't look in the mirror. I looked in the mirror, but I didn't look in the mirror. It was like, oh, my hair okay? Let's go. You know, I didn't like me. I didn't like my body. I didn't like my face. I didn't like my hair. I didn't like anything about me. You know? And I could look at me now and be like, yo, girl, you are the fucking bomb. And this is so what I'm saying, the first thing is like knowing that you want to change, right? And then the second thing is getting broken open, being willing to be broken open, being willing, and it's gonna hurt and it's ugly, and you're gonna hate people around you that you thought you was cool with, because people that you thought you like all those years that you just been all right with, and then you start looking at them like, you motherfucker. I let you get away with a lot of shit, you know? So you got to go through all of that. And then you got to decide who you keeping, who you not keeping, like what's what, set boundary, da, 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 da. And then the healing, then the nice, you know, I'm a little bit on the nice right now, even though but none of that is ever going to really go away, right? You're still going to be angry. You're still going to be da, 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 da. It's just how you react.
Yeah. And so, you know, I want to talk a little bit about your play, your creative writing, because I think it's so juicy, and it's been like, yeah, I'm just so excited about it. Are you willing to talk about it? Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to talk about Untold Stories, which is based on my life. You know, I wanted to do, here we go again, like me trying to do something creative. So I wanted to do a novela. I wanted to do like a soap opera. So the idea was that I was going to try to reach out to some youth to kind of play it out, like to really do a real play or something. But then once again, COVID happened, and I just wasn't getting the people that I needed to do it. And I was like, you know what? I wrote something, and it's based on my high school years. It's loosely based on it, you know, there's a lot of truth. And then there's some things that I added in to make it juicy. I just read it. I just said, you know what? I'll just read my story. I'm just going to read my story.
So it's on your podcast, right?
Yes, it is. I think it's episode 10.
Okay.
And Untold Stories. And that's really not the name of it. Wasn't meant to be the name. It still might change, because I guess this is how I'm doing stuff, you know, just get an idea. And that's the cool thing about my podcast though, right? Like I get to do whatever I want. Like I have no director, I have no publisher, I have nobody's telling me what to do. I do what I want to do. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way. As a matter of fact, my first episode did not record at all. I had to do it over. So
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that a lot of it has been, you know, I've done along the way, and I've even had to not post some things along the way. But so I just figured I write a story about my life, and like a play or like a little parts of it, and I put it on there, and and it's been scary. I just gotta add that this has been scary, especially telling my life story like that. If that's not the most vulnerable thing I could ever do in my life.
Hey.
Yeah. And I have part 2. I just haven't done it because
I'm waiting for part 2.
It's because it's so personal to me. I tried to do it recorded 8 times. Like it's so personal to me that I really have to allow spirit to say it's time.
Yeah.
Because I want to bring it. You know, I want to bring it.
And that's the thing about you, Suzan, like in this whole process, we haven't talked about it so much. So I just want to like give just some time to it. Like your connection to spirit and how that blew up in the process of your trauma healing was like, it impacted me. Like, you know, I want to tell the listeners here, like, you know, I'm former therapist, coach, all that stuff. And it's like, I'm in the helper position, but it's like, you don't even know like how freaking alchemical this is. Like I was changed watching you change, Suzan. Like when you were building your altar, I would see it behind you, like when we were on Zoom, and I would be like, yeah. And I'm a bruja too, but I wasn't doing the altar work. I wasn't connecting in the same way you were. And you really inspired me just how you were in flow with spirit. Like there was a lot sort of going back and forth between us as we were working.
Yeah, because you know what my motto is now, Isha? My motto is like, if it feels right, it's not no more like what the world to have. I feel this is one thing too that I've discovered. It's just like God, many gods, right? We got for me, it's the Trinity still. That's how I see it, right? We have Mother, Father, and Jesus. That's how I see it. And then we have all the other things going on. Saints, angels, your ancestors, all that stuff, right? We still got all that. I believe that too. But I look at it like your relationship with your children, right? You have two daughters, right? You don't expect the same thing out of both of them, right? When you go out with one daughter, it's a whole different experience than when you go out with the other. You do things with your one daughter that you don't do with your other daughter because she's just not, she just don't like it or whatever. Like when I with my kids, I do things with my son. He's a foodie like me. He loves to try different foods. So when we go out, we're gonna do that. With my daughter, we go out, it's gotta be Chili's, anywhere that got burgers and because and I do my nails with her, massages and different, not to say feminine or masculine, not to put it in that content, but just to make it kind of like bring it down so everyone, not down, but just make it understandable, I hope, to everyone, is that so I feel like God's like that too. Why do you think God wants us to be robots and all do the same thing? God, like that's so damn boring. Like, what do you think God is boring? Like, God wants me to do an altar the way He wants me, or she, right? Or they want me to do an altar the way they want me to do an altar, not the way because they want some. If I was to draw you a painting, would you want me to draw you a painting just like I draw everybody else's painting? No, you want your own painting. And God is like that too, I believe. So I can't tell you how to make your altar. That's between you and God. So that's what I say when it feels good. Like you're like, oh yeah, that feels right. I feel so beautiful and now I have like altars all over my house. I got one in my bedroom, got one in my studio, got one in the hallway, even when you come up the stairs, and I make altars when I go out to the sea and leave them there for goddess, so for me now, it's like listen to my intuition and be like, oh, that's for me. And then being careful too, because of my Christianity, like being like sometimes, and I think you told me this, like the fear, being careful to be use your intuition and not let the fear keep you from going a step further because of what you're thinking. So I try to discern that and pray on that and make sure that, okay, goddess, Atabe, who I pray to, my Taino goddess, try to wait and hear and make sure that it feels good to me. And that's what I do. I don't want to be put in a box, and don't put my God in a box.
Right.
I might be what she loves to see me do is dance. What she loves to see you do is read poetry to her.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So Talk to Ma podcast. You gotta listen. You gotta listen.
You need to listen. And I just gotta say this one more thing, even though it's the target audience has started 18 to 35, I feel like it resonates with so many different people, that it might, who knows, that might change.
Right. Yeah. Everything is in flow, right? It can change, it can shift based on where you are in your life and what's coming through you. So, Suzan, let the listeners know how they can reach you. You do oracle readings, you
Yes.
do spiritual counseling. So let them know how they can find you. And I'll include it in the show notes, the links.
So I have a group on Facebook, which is called, of course, Talk to Ma. It's a public group, so you can always join in that. I also have an Instagram, which is Talk to Mom also. I have my podcast. Please like, share, download. And I also, if you want to become a sponsor, it takes a lot of work to do this. So anyone who wants to become a monthly sponsor, you can do that also. Hopefully we grow and reach a bigger audience, and it's all about, success for me is cracking people open, like changing people's lives. And of course I want that to be everybody, but and I gotta say yesterday, and I want to say that yesterday a friend reached out to me that I hadn't heard from in a long time, was like, I just want to go somewhere and scream, Suzan. I love what you're doing, and I just love you so much. And I was like, girl, let's go to the river. I mean, the water, and throw some flowers and scream and pray. And that's so much encouragement for me, because that means somebody's listening. So that to me is success. That's God telling me you're doing the right thing. Somebody reached out to you for help. Wanted it to be you specifically.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Your experience through your voice, through your story. Yeah.
And that's what she said. I just see you. I love you. I love what you're doing. I wanted to hang out with you. I just wanted to, and I was like, girl, let's do this, because I needed to scream and do all that stuff too. So I was glad to have, God always knows what you need, right? God sent her to me and sent me to her, and we had a wonderful experience. It was cold as hell, but that's it. That's the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. And I do have an email, which is talktomapod, P-O-D, @gmail. And also, I really, really can't say it enough. If you have a show idea, if anybody else, this is about building each other up. So I want people to reach out to me and say, hey, I sing. Hey, I write poetry. Hey, whatever. So we can see if we can share it with the rest of the clan, tribe, my people. I want
that. Co-created process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Suzan.
This was so much fun. Thank you.
I love you so much.
Love you too.
All right. Bye.
Just know I couldn't have done this without you. I love you. Mwah.
Love you too.